In today's Leeds news, Leeds keen on Leverkusen striker, Leeds watching Johansson, 49ers plan Farke meeting, and Kristensen makes national media. Morning folks, Jay here, Monday morning the 29th of April with your Leeds United news. Back in the country and back in the blue box. I hope you've all had a really nice weekend. I know things haven't been going our way the last couple of days. Or have they? Did the draw with Hull for Ipswich swing it back in our favour a little bit? Leeds will want a massive favour from Coventry City tomorrow night to at least put the second automatic spot back in our hands going into the final day of the season. If that doesn't happen, any kind of positive result for Ipswich, you would very much see the second automatic spot being very much back in their hands, with having Huddersfield on the final day of the season, while Leeds will host Southampton. A trickier task for Leeds, although Southampton not in very good form at the moment. We'll have to wait and see. There is still some hope there, and as long as there's hope, there's always the playoffs as well. As long as there's hope, well, hang on to that. There's a little bit to get through today, so we'll start off with some incoming news. And according to Sport Bild in Germany, Leeds are said to have interest in Bayer Leverkusen striker Adam Hlozek. The Leeds, however, will have steep competition for the Leverkusen attacker should they make a move for him, with Lazio and Roma also labelled as interested parties in the striker, and how successful they've been both in Europe and in domestic front as well. The 21-year-old striker joined Leverkusen 2 years ago after some impressive performances while at Sparta Prague, but has been unable to replicate that form for Leverkusen and forced his way into that side. The report states that Leverkusen, as we've already mentioned, have got a firm interest in Leeds attacker Crescencio Somerville, and a deal involving both players could be negotiated should Leeds not get promoted to the Premier Division. It's said to be a possibility that could please either side depending on where the clubs find themselves towards the back end of this season. Moving on to talk about the goalkeeping position, and as the pressure mounts on Leeds United over the last couple of weeks, we've seen some shaky performances from Leeds United number one, Hlozek. The player is still likely to pick up the division's Golden Glove award, but that isn't enough for a lot of people who will want to see Meslier replaced at Leeds. However, according to Sportbladet, Leeds have already identified a potential new number one replacing Meslier, and that is Rotherham goalkeepers Victor Johansson. Leeds did have a look at Johansson earlier in the summer last season, but instead decided to stick with Meslier after positive conversations between Daniel Farke and the goalkeeper. Johansson is said to have a £1 million release clause in his contract, and has got some interest, with recently relegated from the Premier Division Sheffield United being linked with the player, as well as Stoke City being said as having a firm interest in the shot stopper. Despite Rotherham's performances this season and their leaky defence, Johansson is seen as one of the best goalkeepers in the league, and by a lot of people is seen as an upgrade on Illan Meslier. It is unclear if the interest Leeds have in the shot stopper is connected with Leeds remaining in the Championship or Leeds going to the Premier Division. Will Leeds look at a different goalkeeper should they get promoted? Is Johansson very much a goalkeeper they'd look to replace Meslier with should they stay in the Championship? Johansson has 1 year remaining on his current contract and is expected to leave in the summer, with Steve Evans likely to sell the player in order to bring in some money to add reinforcements to his squad. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. When Johansson's popped up a couple of times, I have watched him a bit this year. He is a very good goalkeeper. Good at commanding his area, very good shot stopper. Not perfect, but then he wouldn't be as a Championship goalkeeper. Not perfect by any means, but a decent goalkeeper. He has some very positive attributes to his game as well. So we'll keep an eye on that one. We'll see what's happening. Most people at this stage, I mean, as the harder the season's got, as more pressures come on Leeds, Meslier started to look a bit wobbly. I still think Illan Meslier will be a fantastic goalkeeper down the line. The problem is you have to go through these situations with younger goalkeepers, and do Leeds really have the bandwidth to do that? And that's the issue. Moving on, let's talk about 49ers plans for Daniel Farke. And according to Give Me Sport journalist Ben Jacobs, Leeds United owners are planning to have a meeting with Daniel Farke in the coming days. The 49ers have already given Daniel Farke some assurances around his playing squad should Leeds get promoted to the Premier League, stating that should Leeds get promoted, the core group of the club would be retained, and that Leeds would reject any new offers for any of the current stars. That's easy to say if Leeds get promoted. If Leeds remain in the Championship, that will become increasingly more difficult. Jacobs said that the core group will be retained if promoted, and that the owners have already had one meeting with Daniel Farke as part of the pre-summer planning. Leeds have had several players targeted by Premier League clubs already in recent weeks, with Kristensen, Somerville, Willie Gnonto, Jorginho Rutter, Joe Rodon and Archie Gray all being linked with moves away from the club over the last couple of months. Leeds still have a chance for the automatic spots. It's still there should, as I've already said, Coventry get a positive result against Ipswich. That will put Leeds back in the driving seat, a point, and with a better goal difference ahead going to the final day of the season. It will be a case of Leeds win the game and you're promoted. There is always, as I said, the playoffs for that as well, but Leeds with a slightly better goal difference than Ipswich. It's a small margin that's still there, but if Leeds can manage to get a result that goes in their favour on Tuesday, maybe it swings back into Leeds' favour, and then we'll take a lot of this noise away. I keep saying if Leeds do get promoted, and it's great to see the 49ers saying this, if Leeds get promoted, no new offers will be accepted for any of the current players that are at the squad, or at least the core group of players that are there. There is a big planned summer should Leeds get promoted, but if Leeds don't get promoted, there will also have to be some form of a clear out, with the bench this year really proven as something Daniel Farke doesn't trust. The lack of involvement from a lot of players on the bench this season would have to see Leeds try and strengthen that in some way, shape or form, whether that means a couple of player sales in order to bring in other players to try and strengthen that bench remains to be seen. Likes of Joel Pirot just not working this season. I think we said it at the very start of the season when Pirot came in that he probably doesn't fit Daniel Farke's system. The longer the season's gone on, the more that's looked to be the case. He's not a kind of striker that Farke likes. Pat Bamford's been very good when he's been in the team. People don't like Pat Bamford, but yet when you take him out of the team, we've seen some horrendous performances from the strikers up front. Yes, Mateo Joseph being the longer term prospect there, and maybe the longer term answer for that number 9 position. Leeds will still need to bring in cover in that position and potentially a better number 9 that fits the style of play that Daniel Farke likes to play. It's very unlikely that Daniel Farke will be relieved of his duties should Leeds not get promoted. A 90-point season is still a very strong season, and in most years Leeds would have been promoted weeks ago. But being the weird season that we've had this year, we find ourselves in this situation, and it's the most Leedsy thing that could possibly happen. And then moving on to the final story today, one that relates to Leeds exile Rasmus Kristensen, and he has made the national media in his first start for Roma since early March in a 2-2 draw with Napoli. Some good, but mostly not so good. He was involved in a positive move. He was involved in goals at both ends of the park, the first being a positive one where his downward header forced a penalty which Paulo Dybala scored to give Roma the lead. However, his next involvement was described as a lazy outstretched leg that caused a deflection to go over the keeper's head and to give Napoli an equaliser. Corella della Sport gave Kristensen a rating of 5.5 out of 10 and labelled his poor decision making, bad luck and general mistakes as an issue. This isn't great for Rasmus Kristensen, who is obviously trying to put himself in the shop window in order to get another club next season, especially if Leeds don't get promoted. The loan release clauses kick in again next year. He'll want another club away from Leeds United. That's unlikely if he keeps playing the way he's playing. He's had a weird season. He's had a couple of good moments when they played him as a wing back. When they haven't played him as a wing back and as a full back, we've seen the same issues that he had when he was at Leeds as well. Comments there about, bad decision making. We saw that in abundance while he was at Leeds United last season. So a player who made his comeback, was taken off then the second half. Didn't go great for him. First came back after a long layoff, out with suspension as well as being out with a thigh injury for quite a number of weeks as well. So Diego Llorente was on the bench in that game as well. Has been on the bench for the last several weeks for Roma. Whether that's applied to get the player on the cheaper deal or whether it's just poor form. He was being labelled as one of the better players under Jose Mourinho, but under Daniel De Rossi, not so much. So anyway, folks, that's going to be it for me today. Massive thanks as always. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll be back tomorrow morning, slightly earlier than today, with your Leeds news, and hopefully we get a decent result for the Ipswich Coventry game tomorrow night. Have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you later.